I just got back from crawling and boy are my knees skinned. Today what we're gonna do is unpack from crawling and go over the things that I like to check when I'm done with the crawling. Crawling. How many times can we say crawling in the intro? All right, so I went crawling out of Cape and y'all saw the video, and in my backpack is a couple of micro rigs or mini rigs. What size is a TRX4M? I don't know, you're gonna have to tell me. So we want to make sure that our radio is still off. It is still off. That is good. I'm going to put this over on the shelf. You probably are going to end up having storage space for your crawlers, especially if you're like me and you end up having a lot of crawlers. And I keep my radios all on the line. Some people like to keep their radios with their rigs. Some people only have one radio for all their rigs. So if that's the case, it doesn't apply to you. But tell me what you do. Make sure. Okay. We're still good. Thought I unplugged things. All right, I was using this carry-all RC bag and it is amazing. It works great. Went out crawling, brought the rigs. There we go. This is turned off, still turned off. Cool, we're good. Throw two TRX4Ms in it with plenty of space to spare. And then I have, as you can probably hear, all of my wrenches that will just stay in here. Essentially, these are my travel wrenches. I have all of the Vanquish set in here. And you know, if we actually used them and got dirty, this would be a good time to clean them. Additionally, I have a #1 Phillips in there because there's some rigs that have little bitty tiny screws. We have our T-wrench or whatever you want to call it. This is for pretty much all the wheels that I have, the wheel nuts. And let's see, what is this? An extra bag. It looks like a Traxxas radio box cover. We're going to put that back in there. There you go. That stays with my crawling bag at all times. Really love these bags. I actually won that at USTE. I tried to buy them that year and they ran out. And then I ended up winning it later in the day. All right, so I got two rigs to make sure they are ready and working. Or working and ready. This is the one that my daughter crawled. And is it unplugged? It's unplugged. She is getting to know the routines pretty well. And it's pretty cool to me that she just knew to unplug it. So ideally, we do not store our rigs with the batteries in it. I very frequently forget to take them out, but you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't store your batteries in the rig. And why is that? There's a lot of reasons for it. Maybe you can tell me why you wouldn't want to do that in the comments. The reason why I wouldn't is, well, if there is a battery fire, which is not likely when it's just sitting there, it's going to burn down the rig. Of course, it'll burn down your house. If it's a battery fire, is it going to matter if it's in here or in a battery safe? Yes. Is it going to matter if it's in here or just sitting on your shelf? Yeah, maybe not. The other thing is you can forget about batteries and then you just don't know where they are. And if you've got enough rigs like I do, then you might misplace quite a few batteries, having the bad habit of not removing the battery from the rig. So first things first, we got to make sure we're going to take our batteries out, make sure they're unplugged. If this guy had stayed plugged in, you know, it'd probably be bad by now. But there we go. Step number one. Step number two, we're going to go over it and make sure that it doesn't have any dirt hanging on it. If you got in the mud, this would be the time to clean it. You want to clean it pretty fast afterwards if you get into the dirt and the mud. And then re-lube everything. That's the big thing, is making sure you don't get it wet and put it away wet. You want to get it wet and then dry it off and then re-lube certain parts of it. You know, our little metal parts, it's just one of those things. Honestly, I just kind of stay out of the water, and that seems to be the best bet overall. And if it gets dusty, you can spray it off with some compressed air and you're good to go. All right, so we have done that. Now, what I like to do is go through, and you can actually take wrenches and make sure that everything's tight, but a lot of times you can just look. All right, our steering's getting just a touch loose up there. A lot of times your steering is going to be your #1 thing that gets loose, and your #2 thing, or maybe the other way around, is going to be your wheel nuts. And you can just kind of do like this, do like that. It's just see, you know, there's going to be some play in different parts, but you should be able to perceive like this. There's some play right there. You can probably see it on camera. Well, that's just the knuckle and the C-hub play, or actually that's the bushings getting worn out already. So maybe replace these with ball bearings pretty quickly here. Yeah, you know, and this is where you get familiar with your rigs, and you will know, hey, is this getting looser than it used to be? If you don't do inspections like this, and you're really not going to know. So overall, this one looks pretty good. We'll do the same for this one. And the heavier your rigs get, the more power, the more wheel speed they have, the more likely it is that things are going to come loose, and come loose frequently. So you just want to make sure. You just want to make sure. That's all. Everything's looking pretty good. Another thing on the 4-links, if the 4-link gets a little loose, you're going to get more play side to side like this. A lot of that is also in your little ball joints, your pivot balls. And this that you see right here is just the play between the pivot ball and the little pivot body itself. Do I have any sitting around here? Yeah, here's a full size, or a 10th scale, I should say, Heim joint. A lot of times they're called in the full size community. But as you can see, there's a ball that moves inside of this. And as that loosens up over time, let's say if it's plastic, the plastic wears out, you just get more and more play. And on a 4-link, especially if you don't have a whole lot of triangulation, you know, the front on this rig is shorter. So even for the same amount of triangulation, or a same amount of separation, I should say, it ends up having more triangulation, and so it can actually deal with more play in your link ends, your ball ends. So, you know, this, for what it is, isn't that bad, I suppose. But if we wanted to upgrade something down the road, then I would say, yeah, upgrading these so that you don't have as much play would be something. You know, it's such a tiny rig, you're probably not going to perceive that on the rocks. But looking over this, doesn't look like we have anything coming loose. I'll put this servo, this is our HV150 that just got released, and it is a metal geared servo, which means we have a metal screw going into it. And a lot of times what'll happen is that screw ends up coming loose because you have a metal on metal thread. If you don't Loctite that in, a little bit of blue Loctite, which we had on there, it is going to come loose if you don't Loctite it. And if you do, usually it won't. So there we go. Everything's looking good on this. It is not dirty, so we are good to go. All right, the last thing that I like to do before I call it good is that I want to make sure that none of my batteries are still fully charged. And these being the Traxxas battery, you can't easily just plug them into a little thing. I have a device over here hiding somewhere where I can actually check on my batteries to see, are they full, are they not full? And I do know that this one didn't get used. Those two got crawled with, so they're okay. This one is going to be full charge, so what I should do is crawl with it, honestly. The worst thing that you can do to a battery, at least, is to charge it up fully and then set it on a shelf and forget about it. So if you're gonna go out crawling, charge them right before. If you possibly can, don't do it the night before. Night before is really not too bad, but don't do it the week before by any means. So you want to charge them up, you want to use them, and then either charge them to halfway or just make sure that they're not fully charged, really. The fully charged is the worst. The low charge isn't great for them in storage. You really want them to be kind of in the middle. And for a battery, for a lithium battery, that's going to be somewhere around 2.85 volts a cell. I'm sorry, 3.85 volts per cell. That's a pretty good storage range. A lot of the new chargers actually have a storage mode. I'm pretty sure that the Traxxas charger even has a storage mode on there too. So there you go. That would be my biggest recommendation, is to make sure you're not storing charged batteries. It's far worse than having a rig that is slightly dirty, I can tell you that much. So let me know what your habits are for the batteries. When do you like to charge them before you go out? You know, let's say I got home, I went through everything, it looks good. I go to recharge my battery. That means I should be going out crawling pretty much immediately, maybe after dinner, maybe the next day, but certainly not in a week from now. I wouldn't suggest doing that. You're going to come back to a puffy battery and they will lose performance and they will lose their capacity over time pretty quickly if you set them charged, fully charged, and just forget about them for a while. So that's pretty much what I go over when I get home. I'm going to check my rigs out and I'm going to make sure that they are in good working condition. That way, when I go out to crawl the next time, I don't have to fix them to go out to crawl. And as y'all can see behind me, there are a lot of rigs in my stable, and from the very few times that I don't fix my rigs when I come back, it just adds up and adds up and adds up, and then suddenly you've got a whole fleet of crawlers that don't crawl anymore, and all you have to do is wrench. And you can't go out crawling. All you can do is wrench. And sometimes we even bring our rigs that need wrenching to the parking lot, and we wrench on them in the parking lot while everybody else is crawling, because you know, maybe you can get some help, or maybe they have some parts or some expertise, or you just want to hang out with them and you still need a wrench. So, hey, it's not bad, you know, flip down that tailgate on your truck and just wrench on there. It's certainly not unheard of. People were doing that at this last event, and I almost did myself. And even one of my employees, he had a rig that needed to be put together, and I told him, hey, just bring it to the parking lot. We'll get it together in like 5 minutes. But seriously, something like this where it is, you know, he dropped the transmission out, we're putting a different motor in, it really would have only been maybe 5-10 minutes tops with 1 or 2 people kind of double teaming on there. Doesn't take long when it boils down to it. You just got to do it. So there you go. That's my routine when I get through. It's not too overly complicated, but I do want to hear what you check when you get back. Maybe there's something that I missed. Maybe there's something that I'm completely oblivious to that I should be checking. So it is what it is. There we go. We're going to put things away, and then we will be ready to crawl next time after we charge our batteries right before we go crawl. So there you go. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.